Good afternoon, good morning, Swiftly podcast listeners. What's going on? Whatever time of day you're getting a chance to consume this. Good afternoon. Just making sure all of the stuff is straight, as you can see. A second, let me just get this thing rolling and we'll get the show started. All right. A second, let me just get this thing rolling and we'll get. All right, here we are. As you can see, what we're talking about today, we're kind of doing what I've what I've actually decided to do on the third. What I've decided to do on the Thursdays is kind of leave the show open in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So basically, the way I come up with my content, first and foremost, let me just introduce myself to anybody that may be new to my world. Let me just get this thing, the banner up real quick, so we're on the same page. Let me introduce myself to anybody that may be new around here. My name, as one Crookshank. I am your one and only Moose Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author and educator. And I created this whole brand, this whole business, this whole framework, this whole mindset, this whole philosophy in which we take the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and align them with businesses and business owners so they can create and build out a staff, a group of employees that moves as efficiently and as cohesively and has that same passion, that same eagerness, that same thoroughness to them that a championship high school or youth football team has. That's pretty much what we do over here in the Move Swiftly world. And every single day, there's a long range of things that I discuss, a lot of topics I discuss. All of it is centered around making sure that business owners know I'm here for them. This is the system. The system I created is here so they ultimately end up in a situation where their turnover rates are reduced, or if they do have to go to a lot of turnover, they have replacements. I've created the business and created the platform in which you're going to be able to replace people with better people. That's pretty much the mindset and the focus I have created. So the majority of the topics that we talk about here, that I talk about here, are evergreen things and things that will be discussed, that can be discussed now in 2025 and in 2035 and 45 and 55 and beyond. Doesn't matter when you consume it. So what I've decided to do on the Thursdays, because I come up with a theme throughout the week. On the Thursdays, I've decided I'm going to sort of do a recap, a little bit more of a recap to kind of bring people back, let people know what we discussed a couple of days ago, but also at the same time, give you some concepts and give you some understandings of what needs to be done moving forward and how you need to be setting up, whether it's your life or your business, and how you be setting things up in the future so you're able to use whatever theme it is we talked about. All right, that's pretty much, and I'm saying this, but for the most part, for the last couple of Thursdays, I've found myself sort of moving in that direction because we had the Make You Move Monday. We always have the the way the system works here is we always have the Make You Move Monday kickoff question. We always have the top 5 Tuesday, depending on whatever it is we're discussing that week. And then we have something called Wintrepreneur Wednesday, which is a term that I created. The reason I call myself not a 5-time, but a soon to be 6-time published author, because I'm working on book number 6, which is going to be all about the term that I've coined, titled Wintrepreneur, which is basically an entrepreneur, but I put a W in the front of it because I'm a sports guy and we're trying to win. All right, we want to win together. We want people that have that entrepreneurial vision and have been blessed enough to find a job or have a job that relates to that entrepreneurial vision, and we want them winning. All right, again, I come from the sports world where, again, you could do a lot of stuff, but if you ain't winning, you got a problem. You got to win games. Yeah, people don't win games, jobs get lost. So that's the mentality that we want to have in here. That's the mentality and what it's all about. So that's pretty much the first 3 days and the first 3 days of the week. So what I'll start doing is I'll start recapping those articles that we went over the past Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then once we recap it, then we'll move forward in terms of what it is we need to be discussing for next week. And I've scrimmaged around this. Like I said, I scrimmaged around it in my head because I found myself thinking about more about what the owner of my ideal client, the people that I look to serve every day, what they're actually going through, what their day-to-day is like. And what I've experienced personally, especially when it comes to the business owners that I'm looking to serve, is it's really difficult to keep the focus on the right now, and I go through the same thing, right? Myself again, if I didn't have the particular female, the significant other that I have, I'd be all over the place as well. You need people more so keeping the main thing and focusing on the things that are going to create the best outcome for your business and get a result. All right, get a result. That is the key. So this is why, instead of me trying to go and bounce to a new topic on Thursday, I've just figured, all right, let me recap everything we talked about and create some sort of an action plan going forward. And that is, man, I have fallen in love with ChatGPT. Let me just start off by saying that, because there were so many things going on. I'm literally booked in terms of the topics I'm going to be discussing. I have topics for it. I already have a topic for next week, and I have a topic for the week after that. So next 2 weeks, I already have in my mindset what I'm going to be discussing and how I'm going to be breaking it down. And ChatGPT has helped organize my thoughts. All right, it's had helped organize my thoughts in terms of not just going off the rail, and people may be listening to me and I may be all over the place and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're gonna do today. Before I get too into that wrap up phase, let me just get through 2 announcements really, really, really quick for you all. First and foremost, as I mentioned, business owners, if you have not yet, be sure to go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Again, one of my main things, the main thing that we do around here are employee development workshops. And I created a free guide for you. All you have to do is go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. It'll take you maybe 15 seconds to put a name, email address, and phone number. And I will send you over a 10-step process, 10-step guide in which you could be utilizing right now as we speak to make it so your current business is moving in a more efficient manner. We're talking about establishing measurables. If you're listening to this on Move Swiftly podcast, I'm going to just verbalize it so you hear it. I'm showing it on the screen. So I want to make sure you're hearing this. We're talking about establishing measurables, creating a professional distance, and creating a productive environment. All right, professional distance and productive environment. Those are very 2 difficult things to establish, but it is very possible given if you do it the right way. So that's number 1, freeguide.makeyourmove.com. And if you are interested, also make sure you go to makeyourmove.com if you would like to book me to come speak, or you like to shop and get some of the merch, get some books. All that is available on makeyourmove.com and medium.com, which is going to be where we start today. Medium.com is where I write all my articles. Normally, at least 3 a week are coming out. At least 3 new ones are coming out every week. But this week there was some news that came out that made me have to write a 4th one. So at least there's always going to be at least 3 new articles every week. And for my Medium followers, when my book does come out, there will be some extra benefits and goodies and things, some discounts and stuff like that when it comes to the book offerings and stuff like that for the people that are following me on Medium. So medium.com/move@MoveSwiftly44. Be sure to contact me if you are a follower of the Medium account, and we'll go from there. So all that being said, we'll pick it up right there. Because what got me really thinking about how I'm showing up in the world and what the whole business, what the whole brand is all about. It really honestly started 4 days ago. That's Saturday when I put this article out. Like I said, if you're listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, just know I'm putting an article up that I wrote on Saturday, that got published on Saturday, titled "Why Trump and Saban Just Validated Everything I've Been Building." All right. And I will start off. See how it was the best way for me to explain this or to start this one off. I will start off by explaining to you leverage again, because we've been talking about leverage. We've been talking about leverage all week, and leverage using the things that are beneficial to you to make it so you are putting yourself in the best position to be successful, right? So as I was, and this is Saturday, yeah, it happened Saturday. So this is the day before Mother's Day, and Mother's Day in itself, I don't have time. I usually try to keep these around 45 minutes. So if I was to tell you about the whole day Mother's Day, I wouldn't have time. But just go tune into the live stream I did with my good friend Kimberly Blue, who we discussed a lot of great things. We do a live stream every Sunday titled "Stay Hired Sunday," and we talked a lot about mothers coming re-entering the workforce and how difficult that may be, and some of those transferable skills. It was a great conversation that I'm sure you will get a lot out of, especially if you are a mother in that situation and you're looking to re-enter the workforce and all that kind of stuff. But the thing that happened when it came to the Trump and Saban, the conversation that went on there, and how I looked at it as kind of a prep for what we will be discussing throughout the week. All right. And how to use the leverage and the things that are that you've made available to yourself, and the things that you're an expert at, the things that you are strong at, the strengths that you actually have. The strengths that you actually have are going to be something that you need to lean into. You can't shy away from it just because there's some people, or there's a good amount of people that will disagree or will offer some pushback, or to make it so you feel bad about what it is you believe in and what it is you're all about. All right. So as I'm showing the article for the podcast listeners, what happened was, and I won't read the whole thing because I want to get to Mondays. What happened was basically Nick Saban, Nick Saban introduced President Donald Trump at Alabama's graduation, and President Donald Trump gave the commencement speech, and Nick Saban introduced him there, and there was some talk or some reports out there that the two of them was going to get together to create something called a new sports commission focused on fixing college athletics. And when I saw that, I put a post out there saying, hey, that's exactly why I voted for him. That's exactly the reason that he got my vote as the, now the 47th president of the United States. And I said that because it was important for me to explain to people, especially the younger people and business owners, the people that I look to serve, is you got to stop giving a fuck about what everybody else thinks. You got to stop giving a fuck about the identity politics. You got to stop giving a fuck about not being liked. You got to stop giving a fuck about what the blowback and what the pushback is going to be based on the decisions that you make. It's so important that you focus on the things that are going to be so beneficial to you, because if you're doing it the right way, if you're in business for the correct reasons, that the work you do is going to be beneficial to somebody else. You have that confidence, you have that belief in yourself. So when I saw that the two of them were getting together, it confirmed the reason that I wanted him in office over the other candidate who didn't have an issue with guys playing girls sports and stuff like that. So basically put my resume out there. Again, former high school football coach, 2-time top seller for the Miami Dolphins Foundation, a college scout, trainer for Positive Coach Alliance, and author of books centered around my experience as a college football player, and currently residing in South Florida, which is a hotbed for the next generation of athletes, particularly football players, but more so athletes. That's what it's all about. That's why I moved to Florida in the first place, right? So these are the things that were beneficial to my situation, and it created the leverage point. It created leverage points towards me being able to get better develop professionally, and ultimately serve you as business owners in a better way. So when you think about that, that's kind of how the week started and me getting blowback from that. But as I was really thinking about how do I, so that was the weekend. That was basically the weekend. So Monday comes along, and here is Monday's article. Monday's article was let me get some water. All right, Monday's article now is make your move kickoff question. All right, make your move kickoff question, and I'm going to read it directly. Where is it? Where it started, right? So this is where we talked about how I came up with the idea, how this whole leverage conversation came about. And again, I'll repeat myself here. I'm telling you this because it's important to go back and see your why. It's important to go back and kind of read through what you already have built out so you don't get distracted in terms of what it's all about, right? So it all started, reading directly from the article now, it all started with a lemonade stand. Exactly 1 week ago, obviously not a week from me reading this, but exactly 1 week ago, I found myself helping out at a lemonade stand run by a 6-year-old girl. Her mom, who I'm currently dating, had helped her set it up. Before I arrived, I was deep into the audiobook version of $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi, a book her mom actually recommended. Midway through the listen, Hormozi dropped a line that made me hit rewind 8 times. Even the old lady can lift a truck if she has the right lever, but the strongest man in the world can't lift it without one. Boom, that's when it hit me. Everyone needs leverage, business and life and growth and love. Without it, you're stuck pushing against something that will never move. All right, so let's pause it right there. Let's pause it right there. When you are considering who you're going to pick to represent your business, all right, when you're considering the vision, you're considering who is going to be the person that could run the business, that can maintain the things that need to be maintained when I'm gone, who I can leave the business off to, who I can look to and say, hey, that is the person that is going to run things when I'm no longer able to do it myself. This is where it becomes that much more important to drop your ego, drop all the bullshit that you have going on, and say to yourself, I need to put my focus on, first of all, making sure the money's coming in, making sure the profits are where they need to be, and also implementing my vision into the mindset of the people that come in. All right. Why do you need to, or how do you do this? By using your leverage. All right. Recognizing your leverage and using it and using it and using it, using your leverage. And I'm not telling you not to continuously develop as a person and self-improvement, self-development, and all those things. I'm all about that. But you have got to make sure you're using your leverage to put people in place that makes it so your business runs the right way, even when you're not around. All right. This is one of the things that are really, really important. And I picked up on coming from the sports world is that there are coaches that as they elevate from assistant coach to coordinator to head coach, you see them coaching less. All right. It's something that again, one of the things I picked up is you see them coaching less. You see the assistant coaches who would, they're with their positions throughout the day. They're watching film, they're breaking down film with them. For the most part, they're responsible for that group. Then they become a coordinator, right? Defensive or offensive coordinator. And now you have actual game plans. You have to think about all of the positions. You have responsibilities in terms of calling plays during the live game action and making sure you're making the right call, because if it's the wrong call, again, it's your ass. So you gotta kind of step back from the coaching a little bit and look at what you got overall. And if you got to move a person's position, if you got to take a D lineman and then move him to linebacker, if you got to take a linebacker and put him down on as a DN, if you got to take a DN, maybe and maybe bring him in to a three technique or whatever it is. It's important that you're going to be responsible for those. You're going to be responsible for those decisions the same way an offensive coordinator would be. If you got to take a slot receiver and then put him at running back because he's just a little quicker, or you got a tight end that can also do a little bit of fullback. You got a quarterback that's fast enough to maybe get out, maybe do some running because you don't have a great running back or whatever it is. All of these little in-game adjustments you have to make as a coordinator. And then when you become a head coach, when you become a head coach, you coach very little. You coach very little. You're not as involved with the day-to-day and involved with the actual coaching that goes on day to day. I'm telling you how this works because you, as a business owner, this is the mindset. This is the mindset that you have to approach. If you can get it to where you are not just doing everything and you're always the person, again, if you're let's say you're the principal of some school and you're still being the one that is still dealing with disciplinary issues, then that's a problem. That means you're not you're not implementing a staff, you're not implementing a system that makes it so you're able to be hands off with those. And that probably means it's because you're not, you or the higher ups, upper management, stuff like that, they're not utilizing leverage points to make it so the profits are coming in a way that allows you to contract and bring in the right help and bring in the right folks. That's why it's so important. It's because it's not just about affecting you and your own personal shit, right? Your own personal salary. It's also about how is it affecting the overall goal? How is it affecting the overall team? How is it affecting the overall company? How is it affecting the bigger picture? And again, are we going to land in a spot 10, 15 years down the line where this is what we built and this is how we can scale and this is what we can leave to the next generation? Those have to be the questions. And if you're not doing that, you will fail, and you will fail poorly, very, very poorly. All right. So that's where the question, sort of the loaded question on Monday, actually, I got to highlight, right. So because I answered the question myself. And one of the things that I use as a leverage point is the fact that I teach group fitness class. I can teach boxing classes, and those boxing classes would be very similar to me teaching a staff how to take initiative. It'll be very similar to me teaching a staff how to make it so they're working together and they're doing certain things to be conducive to the company. And I got I think it's Jason Whaler, highlighted, the unique blend. And this is me, so you podcast listeners, if you don't know, I'm reading directly from the article, and the way Medium works is when there's a point that somebody likes, they'll highlight the point in the article. So a shout out to Jason Waller. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Jason R. Waller. He highlighted the fact that I wrote, the unique blend allows me to teach boxing themed fitness classes in a way that builds not just physical stamina, but real world confidence in people's careers and their relationships and how they show up every day. So again, when you're thinking about using your leverage points, you don't have to look at a further example than that. When I learned how to do it, when I I didn't teach myself, but when I was working at a boxing gym in 9 Round and I was being taught how to do it, after literally during the same time of me being taught how to do it, I wrote the book Swiftly, which is what this whole company is built on. Again, working with skilled, well-informed front team workers and then teaching them how to add their LY plus LY and lift themselves so where they're all working in a unit and they're moving swiftly. All right. That's where the name came from, if you didn't know. All right. So that was Monday. And then Tuesday, we got into our top 5 ways to use the leverage. First and foremost, number 1 was finances. All right. We cannot be stupid, and we cannot adopt the mindset, the employee mindset, the typical employee bullshit where you're telling folks, or you're telling yourself, at least as an excuse, that I don't need to be rich. I don't need to make a lot of money. I'm good making. I mean, I've had kids. I've heard people tell me some bullshit about, they'd be just happy making $70,000 a year. I've heard folks say this to me directly. They're happy making $60K a year. They're happy making $80K a year. They're happy with, you named a number. That is bullshit. All right. I want to be clear when I say that. That is nothing but a bunch of nonsense for you to be selfish. That's an excuse of you saying I'm selfish. That's an excuse to you understanding what it takes to make a good amount of money. And I won't put a number to, but to have the mindset of I'm happy only making that amount a year is a very selfish mindset and a very selfish worldview, because you don't know what's going to come up. You don't know what medical expenses may come. You don't know what groceries and things that you may want, the person that you meet, or some of the things that tug on your heartstrings, some of the nonprofits, some of the things that can help build and rebuild communities and things like that. You don't know what that's going to cost. And for you to go about this journey that we all have to take, then in terms of adulting, quote unquote, and have the mindset of you're just happy with X number of dollars, that's bullshit and that's selfish. All right. Your mentality that needs to be, I want to make as much money as I can. I remember actually when one of my good friends, one of my day ones, man, shout out to Omar. When I first started doing the show, the Move Swiftly podcast, this was like 5 years ago. He was one of the first folks that I invited on, and I would play this game at the end of every interview called word association. I'd say a word, I get their reaction, and it'd be like, I don't know, fun, and I get the reaction. I'd say a word like progress, and I'll get their one word response, and that was just something cool I did to end the show. So remember having Omar on, and I said the word money to get his reaction, and his reaction was, could never have enough. And I say that because again, if you're doing something unethical for your money, like you're selling crack or drugs or something illegal, something that you shouldn't be doing, then yeah, obviously that's what gets painted in the mainstream media. That's what gets painted amongst the way the world works. Is there's this thing that goes on in the world where they think people who have a lot of money, or they put it out there where a person who has a lot of money is a bad person. That couldn't be further from the truth. Some of the nicest people in the world are rich. All right. I get what the media wants you to look at, wants you to know, but some of the nicest and most gracious people in the world are absolutely filthy, like F you type rich, because that's how you get rich the legitimate way. That's how you actually become a absolute, just a billionaire, is because there's a need, there's a problem, a problem that you see, that you cannot go to sleep, like trying your hardest, giving everything in your power to fix it. That's how you make a lot of money, because you will not stop. You'll just keep going. All right. So first things first, use your leverage, the things that you have had available to you. Again, one of the things for me is I look at myself nowadays and I say I've been super, super blessed growing up with the mother I had, with the older sister I had, with the father I had, considering the way some people grow up in, the structured environment that my mother and father provided for me, plus having the older sister I had, who, started working since she was 14, mother who, really got focused, father who ran his own business. So many things were made available to me that I didn't know how to appreciate when I was younger. But as an adult, and I see other folks, especially as an adult who teaches and is around a lot of students with broken homes and things like who come from broken homes, all of this stuff is now making me see, hey, focus on the things that are giving me leverage, and to talk about the things that I know what I'm talking about. Also, the great coaches I had and the great football programs that I played for, is focus on those leverage points in order to make it so you're maximizing your potential financially, so I can be someone that somebody actually wants to marry, right? So I can be someone that actually says, man, I'm proud to have him as a dad. Those are the things that you should be focusing on when it comes to your finances, and why you should never, ever, ever, ever make the mistake, or have the idea that it's okay, or it's even acceptable for you to say some bullshit about how you'd be happy with only 70K a year or 80K a year or something like that. I mean, again, not to say that that's not good money, but you shouldn't be just saying, oh, I'm just happy with that. All right. I'm good with just making that amount, and I don't want to do nothing else more. I don't want to do anything else outside of whatever I have to do to make that amount. That is a flawed mindset from jump. So that was number one. And I went in on that quite a bit. And number one led to two, which is, again, use your leverage to create a desired lifestyle. All right. That is something that a lot of people don't understand as important. They associate the number of finances, the number that they have that they're making at whatever job. And they say, okay, because I want to do this. And that when that pays this and that's how much that costs. Okay, I'm only going to make this amount. I'll be happy with this amount. No, your desired lifestyle starts right now before you even start working, before you even start getting a check. All right. You can start to picture exactly what you want your desired lifestyle to be, because when you know what you want your desired lifestyle to be, you will start doing the work that it takes to get there. You will start doing the work that it takes to get there. I will tell you a story. I didn't even think of telling this back on Tuesday. So this is why one of the recaps episodes are good for me, because I get a chance to retell some stories like this, certain things that come up, and it completely slips my mind to say it. But I will tell you, back when I was at that 9-round gym, let me see if I can pull it up really quick. Joe, I think the name was. Yep, that's it. Okay, all right. Let me tell this story real quick. I got to tell this story. It's just too good. It is too good not to tell. So for my podcast listeners, let me just kind of give you some context, and I'll move on to Wednesday after this. But understand one thing about me is I moved to South Florida, no family, no friends, didn't really have a job offer. I was working for the Dolphins Foundation. The closest family I had was all the way in is all the way in Cutler Bay. So the part of South Florida that I was in, I wasn't close to my aunt who lives all the way down South Florida. So the part of South Florida I was in, I really had nothing but this Dolphins job that I came out here for. And again, luckily I had found a job as a boxing trainer at 9-round. All right. So one of the members, and I got really close to the members, this is why you hear me talk about them so much. But one of the members was a girl. I don't want to put the girl's name out there, but I could put the father's name out there. His name is Joe Zakai. All right. Joe, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, but Joe Zakai is the voice of the Miami Hurricanes. The voice, like I'm showing you, this is the voice, and I'm bringing him up. I'm showing you pictures of him because his daughter used to come to 9-round she was like one of the regular members at 9-round that I trained. This was his daughter. Actually, that's a picture of her right there. Shout out to her. Again, I don't want to put her name out there, but she would come to 9-round regularly, right? And I remember she played for she was a soccer player at St. Thomas Aquinas. She came with one of her friends and all that. And I remember they came back from a vacation. They came back from some vacation that they went to, somewhere that they went. And what she told me was, she goes like, yeah, me and my mom were on vacation, but my dad was actually working. My dad had some broadcasting he was doing, and her and her mother was like on vacation. And when she said that, it gave me a full-on description on what I want my life to be. That's exactly the way I would want it. I would want to be doing some speaking gig while my wife and daughter are having vacation and enjoying themselves. Like when she said that, it really struck a chord with me, because as you can see, 40 years as the voice of the Miami Hurricanes, and I got the perspective I got that led to the work I'm doing. So when I say desired lifestyle, it could come just because of what somebody says, and because you're in the flow, and because somebody says something to you and you're like, oh man, that must be nice, because she's saying it from the daughter's perspective. I was like, basically my mid to late 20s at the time, which isn't that long ago or whatever. And I was like, man, that would be a really, really cool thing to do. It would be a really, really cool thing to do, to go and book, go report on sports, go talk some sports while my wife and my kids and all that, they out there just vacationing. So, Joe, I haven't met him. I didn't get a chance to meet him yet, but, if I ever do meet him, I'm definitely going to have to tell that. So I'm definitely going to have to give him his flowers and say, hey man, Appreciate you. I appreciate you for kind of opening that up, because I was in, a transitional phase as I was, in an area that I obviously didn't know a lot of people. And again, when you hear these stories and you hear how some men live, it's important that you, like I said, humble yourself and understand that, hey, there are people out there who have paved the way for you to go and build it and dream up and create whatever it is you're trying to dream up and create. It's important for you to go out and do it and pay attention. Pay attention, folks. All right. So that was number 2, was a desired lifestyle. Helping others. Between number 3 and number 4 is helping others and leaving an impact, which is the two different things. Helping others is you really build, like when it comes to me and teaching boxing classes or whatever, or even helping employees when it comes to keeping their jobs or staying hired and all that, is a genuine sense that you want to build a business that's going to actually help somebody and they're getting their getting their money's worth, right? Leaving an impact means you're doing it regardless of the criticism, regardless of how much bullshit you got to hear, regardless of all of the people that create roadblocks and say this and say that, and they want to put their 2 cents in, and they want to say this, and they want all that bullshit. You need to figure out a way to maneuver it, because you want to leave an impact. So there's like levels to it. There's I want to help this X person, and then there's the leaving the impact. Actually leaving an impact means I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what the people who don't like me say. I'm not taking it personal. I'm just going to keep grinding because I'm leaving an impact. There was a difference there, right? And then finally, number 5, got to outwork the competition. Outwork the competition. You got to show up. You got to show up. There's a reason I show up every single morning here. I teach at the school now, by the way. I show up before everyone else gets in the building. I record what I got to record. I do what I got to do. Like, there's so much stuff that I get done before 9 a.m. everyone, because I know the competitors out there and they grinding with it too. And we're going to just compete. And that's the beautiful thing, is you're never going to stop competing. I don't give a shit how old you are going to be competing for the rest of your life. All right. And that's really a problem with the folks who out there who are saying, oh, well, I'll be happy with 80K or 90K, whatever the number is. They are of the mindset where they don't really want to compete. They don't want to compete. All right. They don't want to compete. It's an excuse for saying, I don't want to compete, when you say bullshit like that. All right. And that was Tuesday. So Wednesday, Wintrepreneur Wednesday, was kind of me explaining to you how finishing Alex Hormozi's book, and the journey that I went on with the first one. So the book got recommended to me, $100 million leads. And then as I was reading $100 million leads, I had to stop and go to $100 million offers. And that's why I did a Wintrepreneur Wednesday on that. And I explained that there was a top 2 that was coming, and that was the top 2 that came. And the story I told on Monday in terms of how much the book actually did help, and how it's going to help with my productivity and all that, and what kind of leads to me doing this wrap-up episode on Thursdays and kind of bringing it all together. So I spoke on that, and how now I have Google Ads. I actually made the investment for Google Ads and bring more people in. And in fact, I actually had a great conversation yesterday. I'm potentially going to be in Nashville for a radio show in a couple of weeks and all that stuff. And just making sure, you're learning from others, and also moving in a way where you're establishing your own presence and your own brand and your own way of doing things. So it's a collaborative effort to achieve success. I'm not talking about agreeing with every single thing a person does and agreeing and just being a yes man. I'm talking about establishing a strong enough presence to where you can work with others to achieve shared results and desired results. But you got to have the right folks around you. All right. So as I continue to wrap up this concept, I want to make sure I close out by talking about the thumbnail and why the thumbnail is the thumbnail. All right. So 2025, the goal for 2025, the wrap up, kind of the yearly theme. I do a yearly theme every December, and the thing that inspired this year's theme, which is to thrive in 2025. That's been the yearly theme. What you're looking at is three students that are I've been teaching since what now, man? I've two of them I've known since second grade, and since I'm primarily working with the fourth graders this year, these are students that I have been around. I've been going, been going at it, been going at it. I look at them and I kind of get moved as I see them grow and see them work, because I'm like that when it comes to kids. But I use that because I use that as the thumbnail for today, is because when you're thinking about how to use your leverage moving forward, when you are continuously figuring out ways to position yourself to use your leverage the best way, these kids are watching. They're watching and they're watching and they're watching and they're watching and they're watching, and they're picking up on things that you would have never ever known. All right. They're seeing things in you. They're getting to know you better than you actually know yourself. All right. And I'm putting all that out there to further and kind of drive this point home, drive this week's theme home, to where you don't have an option. You don't have an option of hiding anymore. You don't have an option of just sitting back and deciding, I'm just going to do the status quo. I'm just going to kind of just play the fence and not make decisions. You have got to make a decision and figure out what it is you want to do, how you want to do it, and go full throttle at it, because these folks, the world, as you can see, is moving incredibly fast, and you better get on with it. So that's all I got for you guys today. Next week, we'll be diving into a concept of worldview. And then the week after, you better believe I will be joining the discussion on Black fatigue. All right. So next week, we're going to be discussing worldview. Week after, I'm going to be jumping into this conversation with Black fatigue. There have been a lot of great, strong takes about this concept of Black fatigue, and you better believe I got a lot to say about that, to the point where I need a whole week to really discuss it. So stay tuned for that. Again, if you are a business owner and you have not yet, be sure to go to freeguide.makeitmove.com, put your information in. And also, if you're interested in having me come and speak to your staff and doing some work or shopping or just learning more about Aswan, all of that stuff is available on makeitmove.com. That's makeitmove.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development. Oh, man, I just realized it wasn't sharing. Hold up. Let me put it up real quick for... Yes, makeitmove.com. That's makeitmove.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. Aswan Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.